Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're listening to the album Egg by the band Egg, which are named after, well, an egg.
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
So welcome back everybody. As I said, today we're gonna listen to the bizarre self-titled album by the band Egg, their first album. But beforehand I have to share with you some of my favorite bits from the album, so enjoy. So this one is a quirky album. It's really kind of odd. It's something unlike anything we've listened to before. In my actual opinion, I think this album is actually really what prog is. Stripped of all the appealing elements of it, I think what you're left with is what this album is. It's not trying to be that accessible to anyone. It's actually trying to deter some people away from it as I see it, but I think when it comes to being prog, this album really emphasizes the idea of being progressive. And I'm not just inclining that it has to be a certain genre of progressiveness, so I wouldn't say this one is progressive jazz or progressive rock. I think it literally is just progressive. This is a progressing album. And I really believe that this album is actually trying to test the listeners and their commitment to the music itself. I feel there's a lot of points on this album where you're listening to it and you're just wanting to stop because you don't know what you're doing. But if you really enjoy the music, or at least appreciate it to some extent, you're gonna last with the album and actually keep on listening. And by the way, I just have to point it out, the first track is just an amazing track, probably my favorite of this album. No, but seriously, my actual favorite track from this album, although it's pretty hard to find one, it has to be by a long shot the third or at least the fourth track, depends on how you count them, a track called Fugue in D minor. Now, for those of you listeners, you'd know that a Fugue in D minor is a well-known piece by J.S. Bach, and you can literally find it everywhere. And this piece is just a renovation of that old tune, or I really shouldn't call it a tune, I think it's a toccata if I'm not mistaken, but I really love what they did with it. I think the place they've gone with this one is just really great. I have a great time listening to it. It's really funky, it's groovy, and it's classical at the same time, and I think the instrumentation is just doing a fine job, and I really enjoyed that track by a great margin than the others. But as I said, this album really tries to be unconventional in many ways. Now it comes in a lot of different forms, from the lengths of the songs to the songs themselves, of course, and the music found on them, and even to the names of the songs, which I'm gonna pronounce two of them right now, hopefully without making any mistakes. The first one being Symphony Number 2, in parentheses, Movement 1, Movement 2, Blaine, and Movement 4. Now the Blaine part, by the way, if you're going to listen to it, the Blaine part is pretty trippy and you know when it comes. The second song, and you'll have to excuse me for not looking at the camera whilst doing it because I have to read it off from the other monitor. It's called The Song of McGillicuddy, the Pusillanimous, or Don't Worry James, Your Socks Are Hanging in the Coal Cellar with Thomas. That's the actual name of the track, that's the actual name of it. Oh, and by the way, what does it mean? Does it mean that Thomas is looking after the socks which are being hanged, or is Thomas being hung himself? Anyway, this album is really bizarre, but in some way I do appreciate it, and I think that you should appreciate it as well, unless you're a normal person, in which case don't appreciate it. It's really a bad album for those of you who don't know how to appreciate something like this, or at least even, withstand it. So this album cannot be summed up in words in no way. I would tell you that there are more Egg albums on this list, and I know they're more accessible, the other ones. This one is just something from a different planet, basically. But for now, I have to talk about the cover now. I must say the cover itself is probably as bizarre as the album itself. It is not so misunderstandable as just being really, really odd. You can clearly see the egg on the cover, which is good because the band name is Egg and this album style is Egg, so you know, it's appropriate to having at least one egg. Now, as you can see, there is an egg. I've said egg a lot of times. I've started mispronouncing the word egg. I don't know what's wrong with me. So you can clearly see an egg with a egg head and 2 egg lungs, and it's framed in a picture frame, and then you see some fallen comrades on the floor next to it. So, you know, it's lucky that it's right over here and you can see it, because my description of it would not even do it justice to what you can actually see. So overall, this album gets a surprising 6 out of 10. It's pretty surprising, but I kind of enjoyed it most of the time. I think the score has gone up quite a bit because of the fugue in D minor, but also other songs got at least a good score, if not a decent one, and I think this album deserves a 6 for just being what it is and actually trying. So that's about it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this one. Tomorrow we'll end off the saga of the 3 self-titled albums. We've started off with David Gilmour's self-titled, we've continued this episode with Egg's self-titled, and tomorrow we're gonna listen to Soft Machine's self-titled debut album. So that's about it, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.